Trump-la-fucks love to try to compare Donald Trump to old Sleepy Joe. So let's do that. Today, Joe Biden spoke in Helsinki, Finland. He'd spent time in Europe trying to bring together and unify the NATO nations, and he was very successful with it. NATO is very important to peace around the world. Now, you remember when Donald Trump was in Helsinki? That was some time back, but he had a couple of secret meetings with Vladimir Putin. Nobody could come in. There were no notes taking, nothing recorded, no cameras. Well, that seems a little suspicious. And then later on, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin appear in front of the press. And one of the press from America asked Donald Trump, "Hey, did you ask Vladimir Putin about meddling in the 2016 election?" Donald Trump says, "I did." And Vladimir Putin says he had nothing to do about it. He was very strong about it. And I don't know why they would do that. And then he was asked about, well, you're taking the word of a murderous dictator over your intelligence agencies. He didn't answer, but he was basically saying yes. Well, that's interesting. Now, after that, Donald Trump was doing everything he could to break apart NATO, which makes no sense. I mean, NATO is basically a bunch of countries that come together and have each other's back in case some, I don't know, a murderous dictator tries to invade their land. He comes after one, he has to fuck with them all. That seems like a logical thing and a way to keep peace in this world, but somehow Donald Trump wanted to break that up. He wanted NATO to be done. He made up some bullshit. Well, the European countries aren't paying enough. We're paying all the bills. What does that matter as long as we have a safe world for everybody in it? But that wasn't good enough for Donald Trump. He, for some reason, wanted to break up NATO. And then all those years later, we hear Marjorie Taylor spewing the same shit in Congress. We should pull out of NATO because the European countries don't pay enough. We're paying all the bills. Well, if it means the world is going to stay safe, I'll pay whatever the fuck it takes. But it's interesting that Donald Trump and now his little acolyte, Marjorie Taylor Greene, still thinks we should pull out of NATO, while Joe Biden is over there strengthening NATO. Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to work against world peace and the United States of America? Well, remember those secret meetings between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump? Maybe that's a clue. You see, Vladimir Putin does not like NATO. In fact, he came out one time and he said, "It's like NATO makes me out to be the villain." Well, Vlad, that's because you are. They're trying to protect people from clowns and dictators like you invading innocent countries, like, say, Ukraine. You are the villain, Vlad. So he's the one that doesn't like NATO. He patted Donald Trump on the back and said, "Hey, help me out, buddy. Let's get rid of NATO." Don says, "That's a fucking good idea." Well, fortunately, it didn't work. And now, just a few days ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out and says, "We should pull out of NATO." Well, fortunately, she has no power. Donald Trump is no longer president, and Joe Biden is over in Europe strengthening NATO. What's this tell us about Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the Republicans as a whole? They are working against this country. They are working against our government, our intelligence agencies, and putting the people of this country at risk. And why? Because they're doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin. That's who the Republicans are. They're simps for the Russians, simps for Vladimir Putin. If that's who you want to fucking vote for, put this whole world at risk and certainly put our country at risk, well, you're a dumb motherfucker. You don't understand what's going on. But it just fucking told you. So now think about it.